Hello and welcome back to the channel. On today's tutorial, I'm going to be sharing with you how I made this asymmetric gown with gathers. So if it's your first time viewing my channel, please hit on the subscribe button. So let's dive right into today's video. So first, this is my pattern and I've gone ahead to cut it out. So while cutting my pattern, I cut it on fold and I also added 1/2 inch on the top because I'm going to be turning it with the facing. So you can also use a lining for this, but I'm using the same fabric to turn it at the upper part of the dress. So now this is what I have, and to turn it with my facing, you're just going to place it on it. And I'm going to go ahead to stitch, but before I'm done stitching, I'm going to be creating straps for my dress. So I just cut out these strips and I'm going to fold it with 1/2 inch. After I'm done doing that, I'm going to be placing it in, and I'm also going to go ahead and fold the lower part of my facing. So now this is my fabric and I've gone ahead to sew the strap. This is about 2 inches, which I folded and I stitched on it. So this is what I have now, and I'm going to go ahead to place the straps at the peak of the dress, at the center point. You notice that you have that sharp edge. That is where you'll be placing this. So I'll go ahead to place it this way and I will top stitch on it to hold it down. So after I'm done holding it down, I'm going to go ahead to place the facing, which I've gone ahead to hem the lower part. So now you can cut a full size lining to turn this up, but I want to give it like this already made look that most times you don't sew with your lining. And I'm going to stitch at the upper part and stitch by the sides also. And after stitching it, I'm just going to go ahead to notch it and I'm going to flip it to the right side. And also you can do this if your fabric is not transparent, but if it's transparent, go ahead to turn it with lining. So after I'm done turning it, this is what I have. So now we'll be moving over to the back pattern, and this is what I have on top. I added 1/2 inch because I'll be turning it also, and I cut out a facing for this also. So just like I said, if you're using a transparent material, go ahead and use a full lining. So I went ahead to fold the lower part of my facing for the back. So this is it, and I'm going to go ahead to run a stitch to hold it down this way. After I'm done stitching, this is what I have for the back pattern. Now we'll be joining this back to the front pattern or the front dress. So this is the front and I'm going to place it on it this way, and also on the other side I'm going to place. So I'll be stitching out the sewing allowance. Remember, the sewing allowance we have is 1.5 inches, and I will stitch 1.5 inches on both sides. So while stitching the bust side, you might go in a little just to make that part tight or fitted a little, so that you won't have much gaping when you're wearing the dress. But if sewing out the allowance is okay for you, just go ahead to do that. So I'll just stitch on 1.5 inches on both sides. So after I'm done joining it, this is what I have. So after this, the next step we'll be working on is the lower part of the dress, and this is what I have at the back of the dress. Now on the lower part of the dress, this is my pattern. I added 1/2 inch on this part only. So now this is my pattern, and I've cut it out on the fabric, and I'm going to be joining it to the sides. Sorry, I'm going to be joining it to the back pattern. So for the back pattern, this is what I have. How I got the back pattern was using my main pattern, and I added 1/2 inch in front, just like I explained why I was cutting this out. So in case if you're wondering how we got the 1.5 inches, that is the sewing allowance we added when we were drafting out this pattern. So I'm going to stitch out that 1.5 inches I added here also, and after stitching on one side, this is what I have on the other side. But to explain it more, in case you're confused about the back pattern, this is the pattern paper I used in cutting it out, and I added my zipper allowance. So you're going to add your zipper allowance of 1 inch to it. So I've gone ahead to add the other part of the skirt of the lower part of the dress. So this is what I have. Now we are going to join it to the upper part. So I'll fold the skirt this way, making sure the stitches I have at the sides meet, and I'm going to notch the center this way. After doing that, I'm going to go ahead also to notch the center of the upper part of the dress. So this is what I have, right? And I'm going to also fold it from the joining from the side. The reason why I'm doing this is to make sure that the notches is at the center and the sides meet when I join the dress. So now I'm going to notch the dress this way, and this is what I have. Now I'll go over to the sewing machine and I'm going to join it with 1/2 inch. So if you can join it with 1/2 inch directly, go ahead to do that. But if you're finding it difficult, you can go ahead to pin it before joining with 1/2 inch. So now I'm done joining it, and this is what I have. So now we'll be working on the lower part. So I'll go ahead and place this together, measure about 6 to 7 inches, and I'm going to stitch with 1 inch at the lower part, because we'll be attaching a zipper at the upper part of this dress. After that, going over to the upper part of the dress, that is where we'll be attaching our sleeve. So there are 2 ways of attaching your sleeve. You can just measure how I did I measured from my neckline in front to where I want it to stop at the back, and you can go ahead to place and top stitch, then cut out the excess, or you can just open your facing, pass your straps into it and stitch it back. So to know where to attach your strap, go ahead and measure your zipper allowance of 1 inch if that's what you used, and measure your nipple to nipple divided by 2. So I'm going to be using 3.5, or you can go ahead and mark 1/2 inch after your nipple to nipple divided by 2, and you're just going to pin down and stitch it. So I'll be going over to the sewing machine and I'll be stitching just like I said. So I've gone ahead to stitch this down, and this is what I have. This is what my dress is looking like, and I've gone ahead to iron it out a bit so that it will be looking neat. And just like I explained, I stitched down the lower part of the dress, so I'll attach zipper later to the dress. Now moving on to the straps, I will go ahead to stitch it down at the sewing machine. So after doing this, we're going to go ahead to work on the lower part of this dress, which is one of the important part of this dress. And so I cut out a fabric for the lower part, which is about 12 inches on this part and is as long as 2 yards, 2.5 yards. So I'm going to use it to gather the lower part of my dress, but first I'll go ahead to hem the lower part of the dress. So there are 2 ways to actually attach this. You can go ahead to sew a gather stitch on it, or you can go ahead to pleat it directly and sew on the dress. So whichever method that works better for you, you can go ahead to use that. But for me, I'm going to go over to the sewing machine, and I'll be using the pleating method, whereby I'll place and pleat while I'm sewing. So that is more easier for me, and I'll just continue pleating till I go around the dress. So I'm going to go over to the sewing machine and I'm going to go ahead to sew this round my dress. So if you can't pleat while sewing, go ahead to use a gather stitch also to achieve this. So after I'm done sewing, this is the final look of the dress. And if you haven't yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, please hit on the subscribe button. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and if you're a returning subscriber, thank you for always supporting my channel. If you have any question, please leave it at the comment section. Thank you for always supporting my channel, and see you in our next video. Thanks.